live. Okay, it says we're live for another Tech Talks. Hello, everybody. Today's topic is humanizing your syllabus. And I think we're doing that because this has kind of become a topic of interest and a topic of conversation. Our team and then a few instructors attended the WAC conference over in Renton, and the keynote speaker at that talked about this idea of liquid syllabi, is the term that she uses, which is one way of doing this, but I think the overarching idea is there are some ways of reframing and using the right tone and voice and presence in your syllabus content that hopefully creates a more welcoming environment for students, a better first impression of the class, and even can be shared before the class starts, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great overview. And so like Caleb said, this is kind of stemming off of Michelle Pacansky-Brock's liquid syllabi. And there's a community of practice going on, collaborating between both campuses, SCC and SFCC, to build these. But as we'll talk about a little bit later, how do you actually do that at least quickly in Canvas? If you aren't part of the community practice, what does this mean for just a general instructor? What can we kind of pull out of this technique that will benefit us, even if we aren't doing the full implementation? So we'll kind of be covering that today. So we probably should give you some context as to what this actually looks like. What is a liquid syllabus? We talked about it being a humanizing syllabus. So there's elements of tone, there's elements of personality in there. And there's also just the content within it is very relevant to the student right in the moment. So let's take a look at Michelle Pacansky-Brock's example. And this is what everyone in community practice has been kind of using as a exemplar for this. But if I jump over to her Google site, what we're seeing is Michelle Pacansky-Brock's syllabus for history of still photo. You'll notice in the top left, we are at a sites.google, which means it's a Google site. So she built this in her Google Drive. She's sharing this openly. And she chose this format because it's very flexible. So if I make this window smaller, the text will resize, the images will resize. So there's an obvious benefit to doing there, but not everybody has the time to actually learn how to use Google Sites. Again, if you're in the community practice, that's part of the work that you're doing, but I don't think that's everybody. So we're going to be kind of pulling out the important pieces, at least from the ID perspective, of why this is effective, what's effective about it, and what are the easy things that you can implement into Canvas. So let's start with what we're seeing front and center, right at the top of the fold. History of still photo. We've got the course code or ID, about 530 online, where it's at, who it is with, and then the actual start date and how long it goes. What I like about this is kind of our best practices of web design. People should know where they are at any given moment. Sometimes, especially for individuals that are new to a more virtual environment, maybe it's their first Canvas course, maybe they're coming back to school after a long hiatus and they're kind of getting their bearings. Being able to identify what they're looking at right there is super important. And from Michelle's perspective, this is sent out before students have actually started the course. So that's another element. Oh, why am I getting this email? What's it for? Oh, Michelle is sending me my syllabus for this class. That's right. This is what it's about. So that's an element that I really like. It's very transparent right off the bat. And then she goes right into that, from that beautiful transparency to this, what she calls a warm welcome. This is just a really personal but short intro to who Michelle is. We like the video format, but obviously this is also where you could just put an image and then a very nice, quick bio and what this course means to you. But the point is, it's very inviting. So what Michelle is doing here, she's breaking down what we would consider a very typical boundary between student and teacher. Instead, is trying to make it so that students are more likely to come to her with questions, to be responsive to her feedback and messaging, essentially by making yourself feel like a more holistic human in your syllabus, or at least as Michelle is using this, the first time you're interacting with a student, it's going to do a lot of that legwork to get students to, again, interact and engage with what you're trying to either teach them or say to them or work with them on.
Yeah.
So we
Because
love that.
when I think about like a traditional syllabus, the first thing you see is it feels like a legal contract
Mhm.
more than anything else. It's contractual language. This is the course. These are all the expectations. These are requirements. These are legal notices about, your academic integrity and all the things that can go wrong in this class. Traditionally, they don't have a welcome message embedded within the syllabus.
Yeah, great point. And I mean, what we see time and time again is teachers are the special sauce that makes learning or gives, I guess, positive outcomes to learning. That would be fine if it was a correspondence course, right? And there was no teacher, there was no need. But here we're all so integral in that learning process that we need to be able to show who we are. So I love that approach for sure. So yeah, moving away from that contractual language, because it's not a contract. It's not needed to be a contract. Students aren't signing it. I think that practice has at least kind of fallen to the wayside. We're trying to get them the information they need, right? So how do we do that in a way that actually is engaging and motivating? So we love that she's starting with who she is and doing it in a very personal way. So as you kind of come down, the next element students see is how this course works. And what we view this as is just a really quick overview. And when we talk about student or learner-centered language, we talk about language that, or I should say content that is also very relevant. So it's language that is inviting, but also the content itself is really relevant. So these are the questions I would have before the course started, before I've seen the course, which is, again, Michelle's sending this out before the term starts, and we can talk about how you would do that in Canvas later. But point is, quick overview, how long does it go for? What does this not mean? We're not going to be meeting in Zoom, something that a student might have a question about. Do I need to be logging on at specific times? Your learning will be conducted asynchronously. And then she defines it, which means not live. Because again, students don't talk the way that we talk in academia. They talk like students, they're learners.
They're not making any assumptions about prior knowledge. This is assuming they've never taken an online class. They don't even necessarily know what that means. So this is starting to answer those questions that they're naturally already worried about.
And it's going to benefit even those that have taken online classes, right? It's going to benefit, I think about how I was as a student. I was the anxious kind. I wanted to know these regardless of how well I felt like I'd done in the past.
Right. Even if this is your third semester, third quarter, and you know how to register for class, but you're still thinking, oh God, is this the right one? Am I in the right place? Am I positive I know when this starts? I'm not missing anything, am I? Well, no, you're not. You're here. You're welcome. This is the right place.
How this course works, exactly. And then we've got elements about required textbook. You would want to get that information to your students as soon as possible, right? So again, she's seeding that information in here. I do love that she includes this kind of information about not being a self-paced course. You will interact with your peers throughout each of the weekly modules. She's putting expectations out there, but if you read that, that doesn't feel like I'm being commanded to do anything. There's a reason behind it. Oh, I can engage with that and subscribe to that model because I understand why you're asking me to do it. Talking about adult learners here, there is a little bit of put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel if somebody, was dictating how you should learn versus basically guiding you through how you should learn? And then she includes a little bit of information about what happens week one. This, I guess, depends on how your course is run. But again, what's due, what things do you have to look out for right then and there? And it's all very condensed. And then organized into weekly modules. So what you should expect once you get into the course. And then a little bit about what your assignments are and things like that. And then she goes into information that is what I would call very Michelle. This is her personal tone. So I guess this would depend on what each instructor is doing. In our example that we built in Canvas, we didn't include, say, this commitment to you or the teaching philosophy, because again, that depends on how you want to portray yourself to your students. And some of this information might be in, say, your course orientation or elsewhere. Again, we got to think about what the students need in that first communication as soon as possible. So Our version's a little bit more diluted. We're taking kind of the elements that we feel like are most applicable to that. And then we like this element where, it's our pact, and these are basically expectations for her versus for her to you, the student or learner. And then there's this element right here. Is there anything else you would like to add to this list? She has, I guess, an assignment later that wraps around to this, where it's an orientation survey, where students would, work through a couple of things. Like I imagine it could be like tech readiness. Do you feel like you have everything to start the term? Do you have your textbook required? That's the kind of information you might have in an orientation survey. But then at the end of it, she asks probably questions like, is there anything I should add to what you can expect from me? Is there anything that you feel like needs to be added to what I will expect from you? Do these seem fair? So she's asking them again to subscribe to this model that she's made for the course or design, the way that she's designed the course. But also she's asking students to essentially put a little bit of skin in the game. Hey, this is our space. We're in this together. And that's a very engaging way to talk about this, very motivating, right? Oh, we're in this together. I expect things from you, you expect things from me. It's a give and take. It's not just, you're pushing all of this on me and then I just have to perform. So I like what that does. I feel like it hits a lot of boxes. And then she's got an equity statement, which you may or may not have in your syllabus, but again, depends on the instructor. And then we get down to like a week 1 success kit. This is kind of a nice week in review. Hey, coming up, especially since we always start kind of on weird days, it seems. In fall, we're gonna be starting on a Wednesday. It would be kind of nice as a student to know, oh, I've got things due this week. This is what that first orientation week is going to look like. And then everything after that is going to be pretty typical. It's going to follow some sort of pattern. So it can be nice to kind of get students ready for what they're going to be needing to do. And in our version, again, we were condensing things, but kind of like the way that she's, again, seeding all of this beautiful language in there that describes this course as a community, and we're working together, and I'm here invested in your success, and you should be invested in my success. And it's all very flowery, but in a very, concrete way. So I love the way that she's doing all of that. She's got some tips in here for success. Again, depends on you as an instructor, how you would do that. And then she's got this how to get your questions answered, which this would be like our communication piece. I think of this as like the top of your syllabus where you've got your contact information. She's got all of that right here. But again, pay attention to the language. It's not, here's my email, here's my office hours, reach me if you have questions. She is, again, putting language in there that is supposed to evoke a feeling of trust. And then she also has some information about your general, course related questions, assistance, that kind of stuff. And then because this is being sent out beforehand, you could log into the course now. And then you'll notice at the top here, this is what I would call probably our more standard syllabus information. So for example, grading, this is what you would have in your standard syllabus, right? She's got a very specific grading style, so she explains a lot of that. She's using a lot of videos to do that explaining too, which is a very cool element, but of course, depending on your time constraints, not necessary. And then policies, right? Again, typical stuff that you find in your syllabus. So it was really this homepage that we kind of honed in on, because these elements might be found elsewhere in your course, right? Your orientation module or wherever, however it's getting to the students. So we thought, well, what does this look like for a faculty member that doesn't use Google Sites or isn't used to that format? How do we basically recreate this for folks that aren't ready to make this full step? So when we jump into Canvas, let's do this. Oh, that's the
Wrong course. It's okay.
That's how it goes. So we're going to jump into our e-learning templates course because we made a templated syllabus for this. So this is for Dana Scully's forensic pathology class. But we tried to kind of emulate what Michelle was doing. So we've got, again, top of the fold information. Again, it's going to be a little bit different, right? We try to put Dana Scully's spin on it, but the point is, we've got the class, we've got where it is, it's online, who's it with, that's her actual middle name. And then when it begins. I really liked this element because, again, the intent is for this to be sent out before students really get into the course. Hey, it's good to see you all. this is what you should expect from me and what the course is going to look like. And we'll show you how you can actually do that with the syllabus tool specifically before the course starts. But we've got, in Dana's case, she's very busy, so she wasn't able to do a video, so she just put a portrait up. And then over on the right, she has a little bit about her, kind of what she has to offer this course. You know, she's done some really wild and interesting things in the field, so she wanted to kind of bring those experiences into the classroom. A really interesting way to kind of think about, at least for her experiences are, those would be really interesting for a student to hear about. So she's kind of, I don't know, whetting the appetite almost, like, hey, I've got some things that I'm going to bring to the table that you want to kind of stick around for.
I like the little note at the end. Please feel free to call me Dr. Scully or Dr. Scully. Nice to have setting the expectation. How do you prefer to be addressed by your students? Is it instructor? Is it doctor? Is it professor? Is it first name? You tell them so that there's not any ambiguity, there's not any anxiety. Because we know, especially for brand new students, there is anxiety. What should I call my teacher? Different instructors have different expectations, different styles. So letting them know up front, this is my style, this is what you can expect from me.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I think that this piece can be kind of a sticky subject depending, because some people might feel, well, oh, I'm not being student centric if I am saying they have to call me professor or something like that. I don't think that's the case. I think it's be very clear about those expectations, because it is important for you to kind of maintain those titles. Please let them know. The anxiety is way worse than trying to, I guess, gender yourself by removing a title, if that makes any sense. I've seen that a couple of different times that there's been some interesting articles about,
That's a whole topic in itself.
Yeah. So maybe we don't need to go into that really sticky subject, but point is transparency. So then you've got how this course works. I liked the way Michelle did it. Since our syllabus in here is trying to do a little bit more in one page, we brought in a couple more elements like, hey, you know, we're going to be in Canvas. She had elements of like, here's how to contact Canvas later on, or contact Canvas support later on, and here's how to do certain things elsewhere in her liquid syllabus. But since we're working in Canvas, we're a little bit more limited in how we can kind of like tab information. So what we ended up doing is just adding Canvas information right here after we talk about, again, student-centric. So we are making sure information is relevant and just in time. We're talking about, hey, we're meeting in Canvas. This is where everything's going to be done. Oh, hey, if you're new to Canvas, you need to activate your CCC link account. Oh, if it's been a while, you need to reset your password. All looking good, you can just log in. So we're trying to kind of do a lot with very little, if that makes any sense. And then we're, again, using very similar information. All of this would just be adjusted depending on, again, your class. And then moving on forward, we added that packed element in. We thought, again, does a lot of really good work. We'd like to keep that in this version. And then if so, you have the opportunity to make a suggestion. We're just aligning this with something that's going to be done later. Hey, keep this in mind. I'm going to ask you about it later. Again, we're seeding some meaning behind this. And then we've got that week 1 success kit. She ended up doing an image which I didn't like as much, so I made an accessible table. I feel like it does basically the same thing,
But better.
I was going to say it. But we've got, you know, just a quick summary of what's expected of them during this first week. Here's the items. Again, fall, we're starting on a Wednesday. Why? I don't know. That's not my decision. But point is, I'm being very transparent about the weirdness of this first week, or, hey, this is that time where we're trying to iron out all the kinks. Let's do that together by being really transparent in this moment. And then later on, we also say, hey, you know, that's what this week is for. Let's get everything figured out. And then how to get your questions answered. This again, coming right from Michelle. Some of this language is mimicking her. And then I did like that, you know, happy to arrange times to meet individually in Zoom, but we weren't making it so hard that, okay, now I've got to set up a Zoom meeting and I've got, you know, all this information out there that I got to like manage. No, we can let them kind of, assuming that this syllabus does its job, we can let them come to us. They know that they are more than welcome to. I encourage it, excited about it. So we were hoping that we could keep this simple and not have to worry about, say, a rolling Zoom link or anything like that, at least for this syllabus. Need help that's not specific to your course. This is where we would kind of see those campus resources. And then further down, hey, here's that Canvas help again, since this is assuming it's an online course, which will have the highest level of, say, tech need or tech weirdness, as I'll call it, goblins in the wires, as we say. So here's how you would get that support. And again, we are reiterating what we put up earlier and how does this course work, but it's kind of a nice element to have. And then help with Bigfoot email or Canvas login. We've got our IT support information. So we're trying to, again, catch everybody, especially since this is going to be sent out before the term starts. Do you have IT issues? We need to get those ironed out as soon as possible. Do you need help in Canvas? Let's get that figured out, because that is our course. That's how we're going to get the information to you. And then this is what I would call, the standard syllabus information. Kind of assignments, how I grade, how I get feedback, our DAS statement, as well as our religious observation statement, the two required elements in this state. So this syllabus actually has everything we technically would need, but if you look, it doesn't feel like a syllabus, right? It feels very different. And again, we're talking about student-centered language. We're asking these in the form of a question. Hey, how will I get feedback? Oh, I was wondering that. I can then go and find that quickly, because that inherently is a little bit more transparent than feedback, just a heading that says feedback, right? So we're just taking that little step further.
And then you could add other statements in here.
Oh, yeah.
Craft your equity diversity statement and add this here. Maybe physical needs statement, if you have something like that.
Totally, yeah.
Which is something that Angela and Jared both do sections on sometimes. How do you craft some of those extra statements for your course? And you could add all those to this frequently asked questions.
These have already been pre-filled out, but obviously these would be different. But I should say that all of this, and the final element, get started with week 1.
Just takes you to the modules.
Yep, so that just takes you to modules. So if you're sending this out beforehand, perfect, goes right there. And then that will also be an opportunity for them to log in if they haven't. And then obviously if the course hasn't started yet, you might need some language around, hey, course hasn't started yet, you don't need to do anything, but you can start seeing the course if you need to. So
get to the varying settings before.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's an important element
So-
of this.
the last element we want to talk about is, okay, I've said a lot that this needs to be sent out beforehand, right? That's one of the elements of the liquid syllabus. So
It's a chicken and the egg thing. How does somebody see their syllabus in Canvas if they don't know how to log this Canvas? How do they know how to log into Canvas if they don't see information about logging into Canvas?
perfect. And it's actually really easy to do that, which I don't always get to say. So exciting. So when you are in your course settings, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, there's this visibility element. Now, for you, your course will by default be set to course. That means anybody in the course, your students and you, can see the course. Obviously, this one is public because we want everybody to see it. But if you wanted to say, just let somebody see your syllabus, so you could send them a link, say all of your students before the term started, it's so exciting. You can come over here to customize. You can set just your syllabus. So that is the Canvas syllabus tool to public. And then you can just share that link out and students will be able to interact with it. So, or at least, sorry.
So you do that, and they have to hit save.
Sorry, I've got all sorts of
Hidden behind your windows, but that's
I know
okay.
Caleb's wants me to get, because this
I just want to
is
make sure you get
an
the-
important
yeah.
underpinning, and Nick
Yes.
talks a lot.
And then you go to syllabus and you copy the URL.
Once it's
Maybe,
goes.
there we go,
So,
copy that.
and then let's do this.
And then go into CTC link and grab your course roster and your email list and email this to your students before the term starts. Before they know how to log into Canvas, possibly before they even have login credentials available to them. They can at least see this landing page, this welcoming, warm, open syllabus. And it's gonna give them that immediate head start before the classes start.
Mhm. And just remember also, this goes in hand with publishing your course early. Again, students will be able to access the course if it's published early, but by putting this as public, doesn't require that sign in. So it just takes one step back and allows the students to take 2 steps forward.
Yeah, so you really beautifully showed, like, there's probably 4 elements I really think about with Michelle Pacansky Brock stuff, right? There's that warm language, which you've done in Canvas, that sort of visual aesthetics, which you've done here. You made it public ahead of time. And then the other thing that Michelle Pacansky Brock mentions about using Google Sites is that it looks good on a mobile device. And also that's something that you've done with this too. And so, you know, so if somebody wants to use Google Sites, great, but if it's not something they want to do, feels like all of those important pieces can be done this way, right?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to wrap it up. And just so you know, this is called the Humanize syllabus in our e-learning templates course. And with that is the entire basically copyable code that you can use to recreate this entire thing. You can also have us copy it into your course if you would like. But the point is, this is ready to be used if you want to use it in Canvas, or you can kind of build elements on your own, take some of the best practices that Michelle is doing, bring them into your course, whether that's your homepage, your orientation, your syllabus. At least we can kind of use those best practices regardless. So I know I talked a lot. It's 1:30. If you need to head out, please do. Otherwise, we can stick around. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
And one last thing.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. We would like to start to do a better job of collecting feedback so that we can tailor the tech talks to what people are finding useful. And so I'm going to put a link into the chat that should hopefully lead to a Google form that collects anonymous data, and we will also link it into the YouTube site. So if anyone wants to provide feedback, certainly no pressure. We would love to hear what you all have to say.
Okay, thank you for remembering that.
Okay,
Okay, with that,
I think we're good for today.
we did it.
We did it, we made it. Come back next week where we will talk about regular and substantive interaction, which is not that hard and not that scary. That's our tagline. Not that hard, not that scary. Perfect.
It may be a little fun.
I don't know if I go quite that far, but not that hard, not that scary. All right, I'm gonna end the live stream.
Thank you all. It was good seeing you.
Definitely fun, you guys. Definitely fun to have RSI.